Hello, I'm Jack. This is Scott. We're from Smokescreen. This is the security breakdown. So, this week something was brought to our attention, and we wanted to just have a bit of a chat about it, really. I thought it would be interesting to have you on, Scott, as our marketing legend.
So they say.
Because I think it's relevant. So, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the ethics of selling security by fear. Mm-hmm. So by scaring people with threats of, what could happen if you didn't have a security system, and how whether that's ethical or not, an ethical thing to do. Personally, for me, I feel like it's not, and I think that people should be allowed to make their own decisions without being driven by emotion. But I'm sure other people have other opinions. It would be interesting to hear about those as well. But last week, something sort of significant happened in the security industry. It's something that was publicized and something that was sort of presented to us as something that could be used as a tool for marketing our Smokescreen products. Can you tell us what it is, Scott?
Yeah, no problem. So there was an attack in a shopping centre, and it was very publicized due to the nature of the attack, the fact that it was in the daytime. It was 5 people using weapons and tools, and they just seemed to have no regard for anything, just straight in there. It robbed, I don't even know the total of missing items, but a hell of a lot of stuff from Tag Heuer. I think I'm pronouncing that right now. Learned that today. From one of their stores, and somebody was mildly injured during the attack. I think someone had their hair pulled, but they recovered fully, but still there was physical altercation. And obviously this type of thing is very, very difficult. And to go back to something that was mentioned when we did the last podcast, even though I wasn't on it, I was just over there, stood listening. I've been working at Smokescreen now for just around about a year, and I'm fairly new to the security industry, so I don't have the experience that a lot of the other guys have. And what's really interesting is I've come from different industries where you market in a number of different ways, but having to market and decide how much of realism versus an ethical line is very, very difficult. Which is why anybody that watched that podcast will know that Matt spoke about a project we did called Fight Back Against Retail Crime, and how we adapted the marketing material we used there to be less aggressive.
Yeah,
and to have like a word of unity in it at the end. So it was more about what we wanted the desired outcome to be rather than the actual problem that we were affecting. And that was really good. And that was a turning point for me, really good learning point. I think it really helped the project. It's really cool. And then things like this happen, like this incident. And the reason that we've done this additional podcast today is because this industry by nature throws these moments when you could capitalize on something very bad. And this today is born from a conversation that Jack and I were having a couple of hours ago, where we're like, what do we do about this post? What do we do about this incident? We could easily swan in and say,
we can swoop in and go, well, you could have had a Smokescreen.
Yeah.
And none of this bad stuff would have ever happened.
Yeah.
We don't know that would have been the case. We don't know whether the machine would be what would change the tide of that attack. We'd like to think so because we have confidence in our products. But I feel for us, there's a line between confidence in the product and just overselling.
Yes.
At any point.
And
what I mean?
Yeah, you're dead right. And we don't even know, actually, I want to add some detail here. We don't know if that store has smoke installed and it's not maybe activated by panic. So that's why it didn't go off, or maybe they just haven't got a smoke system altogether. We haven't spoken to anyone from Tag Heuer. I wanted to put that out there first. But we know that there was no smoke activated on this, and it would be, it's an opportunity that you could exploit. And that's what we were talking about today, and we thought it was worth the discussion because we did that podcast recently, and now this has landed right in front of us. And it's very difficult, but we wanted to address it without exploiting it, basically.
Yeah. So I think for this little video to have any kind of point, I think we do need to talk about what else we can do when an opportunity like this arises. And I don't think that jumping on it and saying that we want to sell them a smokescreen is the answer.
No.
But I think it is a useful exercise for us to highlight that this could happen. And these sorts of events where we could capitalize on them happen all the time, and we're no stranger to them, but actually we'd rather be using our time more effectively to educate people in the first place, right? You mentioned the Fight Back Against Retail Crime event, where a bunch of retailers and a bunch of security industry manufacturers got together and they demonstrated their products to the retailers. And I think it was a really eye-opening day, because it was a case that actually quite a lot of some of the larger retailers and a lot of the smaller retailers had no idea what was available on the market.
Yeah.
And they may well have some sort of awareness of the level of risk that goes into running a retail outlet, but they might not know how the best way is for them to deal with that. So for us, I feel like using events like Fight Back is a much better method, much more ethical way of educating professionals in the retail industry and actually selling our product to people once they know its capability and they understand what it's there for. And as well, combining it with other products. You don't just have to have one smoke machine. You could have, who else was there? We had the guys at Klaxon, we had Selector DNA.
Yeah.
Combine that with Hikvision with their cameras, and so on like that, until you get, a comprehensive security system. But none of the people that were there were reeling from an attack event. They were there because they were interested and because they were cared about protecting their property and their stores and their staff and everything. And I think you're right in saying that event was much more about the outcome in a positive light rather than the problem in the first place. And
the doom of afterwards, the desolation. Actually, that's a really good point. Like the word foresight. I think we need the retail industry to be aware of these type of events so that they have the foresight then to be able to defend themselves and to see what's in the marketplace. But also what's interesting for us and a challenge as a company, and probably for all security companies, is having the foresight to know where to be so that those retailers can find you. That's like, we need the right events. We need to be able to push ourselves and show what we can do and demonstrate our products. That's security focus, everything, cameras. And especially, I think what's difficult, I was surprised at how old the security fog industry is. I didn't know it existed a year ago, but it's been around a long time, so Matt tells me. But we've got a lot of faster moving technology, especially security software and AI. If you're in the retail space or if you've got something to protect, how on earth do you keep on top of all that?
Yeah,
it's really difficult.
It's overwhelming for me.
Yeah,
and I do it every day. Yeah. So to be someone who's got, imagine being a small business owner who's totally out of the security industry and has got a billion other things to worry about, and every night's a sleepless night because they're thinking about how they're going to pay their staff and how they're going to blah, 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 everything. I think when you get down to brass tacks on that, piling on, well, what happens if you have a big, scary raid, people with chainsaws? Like, that's just another thing that people don't need to add on, that, the stress of being alive and the stress of running a business and everything. It just seems totally unfair to me.
I think it's
to push people that way. But if they're interested, making it so that they have the opportunity to find out as much information as they can and see where it could be useful for them can only be beneficial.
Yeah.
As long as they're being educated and as long as they're getting information in a way that's useful to them rather than just overwhelming with a barrage of fear.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's interesting, actually. And that's probably the main question we're getting to is, well, I've got two, actually. One is like more specific to businesses, to security businesses out there. Like, Have you sold after the event? Like when you sold in that kind of context, when something terrible has happened to a business, how does that affect you? How does that affect your sales process? Compared to a business where they've got more foresight and they're just planning, they're kind of preparing, more prepared. Those two different sales routes are quite different. Like we might have a client that's more desperate and that would just literally throw money at something because they're vulnerable. Yeah. Whereas somebody that's being more precautious, but then even budgets could be different. So I'd love to know if anybody has a different method of talking to clients, either before or after an event. I think that's really fascinating.
I think for me, I mean, I've spoken to customers on both ends of the spectrum, and it's almost strange when I speak to somebody who is proactive with their security system. It's like, well, we've not had an attack, nothing's happened, but we want to make sure that if it does happen, that we're as well prepared as we can be. Speaking to people like that, they've got a totally different view, and they always feel refreshing. Like you feel like you're selling them a product that they already know that they want, and they're receptive to it. The other side of that is if you're speaking to somebody that's under that, like the influence of fear and like has that stress, it almost feels like it's too easy, like it's cheap.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're sort of selling them a product because like they don't know that they don't need it. They just like, I need something.
Yeah, the desperation.
Yeah, it's the desperation, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, there's even one of our software developers pointed something out to me on, I can't remember the company's page, but I think it might be a software company, and they have something on their website, a really nice, highly visible orange button in the top right-hand corner, which is under attack.
I think it's Cloudflare.
Cloudflare. Okay, so that's basically really to help you if you need support and you need it now. And we all know what that's like when something has gone wrong. Maybe you've had an accident and you're like in your car and you're just like, crap, where's the number for my car insurance? I need it now. Now
you get cars where they call automatically.
Oh, right.
If you have an accident and the sensors detect a crash, it calls, with the hands-free, and it's 999, you've had an accident straight away. Like, although that could feel a little bit intrusive, maybe you don't want to ring the police. In a situation where you need it, having it has got to be way better than not having it. Like if you've been into a serious accident, your phone's gone out the window, it could be, the exact thing you need. And that's the same thing with that, like you say, the Cloudflare website, where if you're having a trouble with your Cloudflare, so it's like web hosting,
right?
If you've got a problem, you might not want to be mucking about trying to figure out how to get into contact with somebody. You want to just go, come on, help me now. I need it.
And I really liked that, and so did the person that shared it with me, one of our team members. I love that. As much as we're saying we don't want to exploit somebody that's vulnerable, making that process as easy and understanding that you're in a panic when you've been attacked and you need help and you don't want to go through the contact us page and find who to speak to. And
make yourself available.
Yeah.
It's still passive, isn't it? It's still like, they still have to go and search you out in that case with the website, but you're making it as easy for them as possible to get help when they haven't got the mental space to do anything as well, when they're in dire need. But you're not there going, you need this.
You need this, or
you're gonna suffer. You need this.
Your children
or
will be
even
lonely.
worse is you should have had this.
Yes.
And you didn't have it. It's still a passive thing that lets the customer come to you, which to me 9 times out of 10 it feels like a much better, cleaner, easier, more wholesome sales process.
So how do we this is the main question I think we want to get, how do we get in front of it? Where do we place ourselves to be putting the answers in front of the client before we have to tell them, rather than the alternative, rather than, we could have sorted that for you. How do we say, we can help you if?
Well, that's your job, Scott.
Yeah, I know. But I
You
just
have to
want, if
figure
you
out.
guys can just write me maybe a couple of months social posts, then I can go on holiday.
I think for me, actually educating people on what the products are that are available, their capability, demonstrating it to them and allowing them to see it.
Yeah.
I think being, especially with fog, because it is so confronting in real life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can watch a million videos of it, but it does not in any way describe what it's like in reality. So having that like first person experience with it is a great sales tool.
I think that's we say this about fog a lot, and I think it's the same. I forget how similar it is with different products. Like when we were at the Fight Back event, Klaxon were there with their Master Blaster, is it?
Yeah.
And I felt really sorry for the guy demoing the unit because we couldn't obviously demo the sound of it.
It's so loud that we couldn't demo it.
Yeah, and so good that we couldn't demo it. So he had a video of it. It's just he was apologetic about the video, so he couldn't give the full performance.
Yeah.
And I think this is what's difficult as well. Most security products, you can try and translate them digitally, but it's just not going to be the same. We need to be in person. And I suppose that's the power of events.
Yeah. I think that's why, like, for us, we like going to events and taking the demo van.
Yeah.
We'll always choose it every time. We'll take it because, even if we get one person come and see it, there's one more person that's had a true experience of what it's like compared to seeing like 100 people seeing videos of it online. I feel like it's always more powerful.
Yeah, 100%. I want to acknowledge as well, actually, the irony, because I know someone's going to pick up on this and we want to acknowledge it. The irony of not wanting to necessarily publicize and not wanting to talk about the event.
Yeah, and then talk about it
in the shopping centre. Yeah. That is not our agenda here. It was literally...
as much as it may seem.
As much as I don't like it. If you could just buy 100 fog generators, that'd be fine. We just wanted to talk about the fact that it's a difficult thing to talk about when issues happen. It's a difficult line for us to walk.
I think the point of the security breakdown has always been to spark conversation and ask questions and get. We don't necessarily want answers. We just want to know what other people think. We want to know what other people, what their questions are as well. So just the act of like, if we ask a question in the office, we're like, well, should we do this? How do we feel about this? Are we comfortable with doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we not also involving other people in that conversation? Do you know?
Yeah.
So that's why we decided, we don't know what to do about it.
Maybe
let's see what you think about it as well. So
maybe you have the same issues.
Yeah. And I'm sure people do.
Yeah.
And maybe not even in the security industry. In every industry, there's always something, So, but for us, we're close to it. We know what's going on. We know how we feel about the security industry. We know what's inside of it. So that it makes it easier to talk about and think about. But it's still not easy to get the answers. And not necessarily easy to get the right ones for sure. So
there isn't sometimes. There? But let's summarize the questions.
Lettuce.
Yeah, lettuce. Do you like gem or... right, so I think the main questions then that we would like interaction from, please, is, or they are, how is your process different pre and post an event? If you're dealing with a client, just have a think about that. I think that's quite a nice thing. And then what's the other one? Forgotten it. The man gone blank.
That's the curse of the podcast.
Yeah. What's the other one? So we remembered. It's how do we do it better? How can we get in front of it so we don't have to have conversations with the client afterwards?
Yeah.
How can we preempt?
Yeah. Well, I think we have some answers to that. But I'd really be interested to hear what other people's sort of views are, like, especially from a purchasing, like a customer perspective, like what helps you understand and buy a security product, hopefully before, a crime or a break-in or whatever takes place. What makes it easy for you to decide what you want to buy not necessarily security, but everything. And lots of people, a lot of different ways of buying things. For me, I'm like, I will research every single facet of this device in every possible permutation until I know every fact about it. And then I will totally paralyze myself with indecision and never buy it in the first place.
Totally not like that. I'll just like that. That's all right.
Yeah.
And I'll just moan about it if it's rubbish.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for this for watching this
Waffle.
podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Matt might be back. Who knows? Who knows?
Cool.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.